This is a classic shot. Ukraine's Secret Service gives a devastating blow to Putin. Close-up video. Ukraine's Secret Service brought down 14 Russian tanks in an attack in a remarkable footage published on social media. The video shows the security service of Ukraine carrying out drone attacks with bombs and bullets against 3 infantry fighting vehicles and a state-of-the-art Russian main battle tank. Unsuspecting vehicles appear to be sitting still as the drones cover the area from above. The footage slowly shifts from tank to tank, with each tank exploding into a fireball after a successful attack. The SBU is headquartered in Kiev and is the main law enforcement and intelligence agency of the Ukrainian government. It operates in the areas of counterintelligence and counterterrorism operations, as well as operating its own Special Forces unit, Alpha Corporation. The airstrikes will cause further concern for Vladimir Putin as Russian forces continue their offensive in eastern and southern Ukraine. Although they made slow advances into the country, capturing Severodonetsk last week and then Lysychansk over the weekend, they suffered massive losses in equipment and personnel in the process. However, Putin seems undaunted by the difficulties his forces face, saying today that if the West wants to defeat Russia on the battlefield, it's welcome to try it out. Putin said in a hawkish speech to congressional leaders that Russia was just getting started in Ukraine and prospects for any talks would dim further if the conflict drags on. "We heard today that they wanted to defeat us on the battlefield," he said in a televised address. "What can you say? Let them try. We have heard many times that the West wants to beat us to the last Ukrainian. This is a tragedy for the Ukrainian people, but it seems that everything is moving towards this. Everyone should know that, overall, we haven't started anything seriously yet. At the same time, we do not reject peace talks. But those who reject them should know that the further they go, the harder it is for them to negotiate with us." Meanwhile, Ukrainian officials announced that 3 people were killed and 5 wounded in the city of Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine after Russian forces fired rockets into the district. Governor Ol Sinigubov said 3 civilians were killed and 5 wounded by shelling in the Nemyshlyan district. "This is a very stupid move. Belarus declares war on Poland. The Belarusian army is ready to attack Poland's territory in response to provocative actions of Western countries. This increases the risk of an all-out war when Belarus is Russia's closest ally and Poland is a NATO member. This will cause the outbreak of World War III." Major General Ruslan Kosygin, deputy chief of the General Staff of Belarus, shared this with reporters, Belta newspaper reported. According to Kosygin, Belarus is ready to respond appropriately to Western provocations. And in the event of a conflict, Polish territory, with its military infrastructure, will become the main target of attack. Kosygin also noted that Belarus has prepared for different scenarios of the development of the situation. "I do not want this scenario to become a military scenario, but the West must clearly understand that our response to any armed provocation will certainly be appropriate and tough," Kosygin explained. The deputy chief of the General Staff of Belarus believes that these plans are confirmed by the operational and combat training of the Allied armies carried out in the countries adjacent to Belarus, in which the Federation Russia and Belarus are considered enemies. The territory of Poland, as well as the Baltic states, is turning into a training ground, on the territory of which the United States plans to provoke another bloody conflict in Europe against the Russian Federation, Major General said. And their allies, the Major General said. According to him, the process of putting the anti-missile defense base into operation is being completed in Poland. Kosygin believes that Washington and Brussels, under the pretext of containing the threat from the east, are finding a mechanism to create groups of troops that can be used in respective directions of action against Russia and Belarus. As previously reported, Alexander Lukashenko, the self-appointed president of the Republic of Belarus, announced that he had ordered targeted of decision-making centers in the capitals of the countries bordering Belarus. Lukashenko made it clear that he plans to use multiple rocket launchers. Russia is under siege. NATO mobilizes a huge fleet of ships and combat aircraft to the Baltic Sea. NATO member states sent more than 45 warships and 7,000 troops to Stockholm this weekend, seen as a warning to Russia after Sweden and neighboring Finland applied to join the military alliance. This military ships from 14 NATO countries arrived in the Nordic capital on Saturday to take part in an exercise alongside Finland and Sweden. Exercise called Baltops aims to test the cooperation ability of the navies, air forces and militaries of these countries. The Baltops are set to run all week and involve amphibious exercises along the coasts of Sweden and Germany. The USS Kearsarge, an American warship, was among those that arrived in Stockholm over the weekend. The 253-meter-long ship was joined by 44 other ships, 76 aircraft and about 7,000 soldiers. Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, Poland, Norway and the UK are the participants. 14 NATO allies, 2 NATO partner countries, more than 45 ships. More than 75 aircraft and approximately 7,000 personnel will participate in the 51st exercise, NATO said. Maritime leadership gathering from June 5 to 17. The presence of NATO ships has also been hailed as sending a message to Russia that the military alliance is keeping a close eye on both Sweden and Finland, who will be participating in the exercise. This is a major deterrent against Russia by NATO. A big NATO exercise and ready to level Russia, anytime Putin moves, moving. Speaking at a press conference aboard the USS Kearsarge on Saturday, General Mark Milley, the U.S. military's top commander, said the exercise was intended to quell concerns about Russia's ability to deter countries in the region. Area. We are committed to a rules-based international order, and the idea that powerful nations cannot just arbitrarily attack smaller and weaker states as we saw in Ukraine, he said. We will not allow this to continue, in a country that is the second victim after Ukraine. Swedish Defense Minister Peter Hultqvist told reporters in Washington 2 weeks ago that the Pentagon was committed to doing this. Some of the temporary security measures include U.S. Navy warships present in the Baltic Sea, joint training ground forces and Air Force bombers flying over Scandinavian airspace. Swedish General Magdalena Andersson said the arrival of the U.S. special warship showed that U.S. President Joe Biden was maintaining the commitments he made to her and Finnish President Sauli Niinistö when the two leaders of North Europe visited Washington last month. We will help strengthen a strong NATO, and not allow a small threat from Russia. Swedish Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson said the arrival of the U.S. special warship showed the General U.S. President Joe Biden is upholding the commitments he made to her and the Finnish President Sauli Niinistö when the two Nordic leaders visited Washington last month. We will help strengthen a strong NATO and not allow a small threat from Russia. Swedish Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson said the arrival of the U.S. special warship showed that U.S. President Joe Biden was maintaining the commitments he made to her and Finnish President Sauli Niinistö when the two leaders Nordic visited Washington last month. We will help strengthen a strong NATO and not allow a small threat from Putin withdraws troops urgently. NATO forces near the Finnish-Russian border panic. Russian forces have retreated from the border with Finland as the country is poised to join NATO while Vladimir Putin scrambles to find more men to send to the front lines in Ukraine. Satellite images appear to show that more than 100 vehicles have been moved from the Alakurti military base near the Finnish border, according to Euromaidan press. The vehicles likely have been moved to Ukraine as Russian losses mount there. Dozens of armored personnel carriers and other vehicles, along with 800 to 1,000 soldiers are reported to have left. Russian expert Marko Eklund said, it is very likely that they were sent by train to Ukraine. Russia has not announced any troop movements from the base. The news comes as Canada became the first NATO country to ratify Sweden and Finland's request to join NATO. If Finland joins the alliance, it would more than double NATO's land border with Russia, a serious blow to Putin, who has claimed NATO expansion is a threat to Russian security. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said, Canada has full confidence in Finland and Sweden's ability to integrate quickly and effectively into NATO and contribute to the alliance's collective defense. We have always welcomed their close partnership with the alliance and their valuable contributions to transatlantic security. Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister and a key ally of President Vladimir Putin, has taunted the West by saying the world must respect international law, despite Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. Mr. Lavrov accused the UK of looking for an excuse to send a fleet to the Black Sea to supervise grain exports. The comments come as Mr. Lavrov is visiting his Vietnamese counterpart in